Welcome to my journey through the Bible. This will be application you can apply to your life and a little more in depth about the chapter. We are in 1 King 21, verses 1 through 29. Now, we see that Ahab is the king. And so he felt like he could take what he wanted. He felt like he could do what he wanted to do. And he wanted this vineyard of Naboth. Now, let's look at it from Naboth's side. Naboth had a very good piece of land, a vineyard of herbs that was very good and very pleasing, which is why the king wanted it. And this land had been passed down from generation to generation. It came from his fathers, and most likely he had planned to give it down to his children. And if he would have sold it to the king, then he would have some money. And he might have the money for a short time, but it doesn't take long for us to spend money and then we're back with nothing. The land was very good. It produced herbs. And now, even though he would have got another piece of land, we don't know if the soil of the other land the king would have given him would not have been as good. Noth would have needed to work the land and get it to where it would produce, or maybe it would never produce any more vineyards or herbs of any kind. So Naboth was thinking it didn't really matter how much money the king had offered him for this land. This had been in his inheritance, and no matter amount of money or land he would have gave him, it would never have been worth the amount of land that he had already, because this was a family land. It was something they were passing down from each one. Now, Ahab was very powerful, but he was also very selfish. He begins to pout like a kid. He goes home. I don't want to eat. I'm just going to stay in my bed. And then his wife comes in and wants to know why he's a little upset. Now, we want our spouses to be happy, yes, but not at the point of somebody else's expenses, which is what we see here. Now, Jezebel was a very evil queen. She pretty much did what she wanted when she wanted, and her husband really did not stand up to her or correct her in the decisions that she was making. He did not hold her accountable. And as we're reading, obviously the nobles and the elders did not as well. Jezebel writes this letter that says, okay, I want you to have 2 false witnesses, and I want you to kill this man so that we can have his land. Now, those are against 2 of the commandments of God that says, I will not bear false witness, and thou shalt not kill. And these nobles and elders, they had a position of power that they should have upheld. The elders were to know the laws of God, and the nobles were to enforce it. But the elders didn't know God's law, or didn't apply it if they did, and these nobles were not very noble. And we can see that sometimes in our life. The laws of God, we can find those in Exodus. We can find the things that we are not supposed to do in the book of Leviticus. But a lot of times in life, we want what we want. We may not take it to this extreme to maybe kill somebody, or at least I would hope we would not. But sometimes people will finagle and maybe deceive other people in order to get a better deal or to get what they want. And there's lessons that we can learn from this. We can't always have everything that our hearts desires. First of all, everything is not good for us. And secondly, we need to stand up for what is right. These elders and these nobles, they had to know that this was a lie because they were asked to get two false witnesses to stand up. But yet they didn't stand up for what was right. They just went down the easier path. Maybe they were scared of the punishment that they would get from the queen. But we also see that sometimes we want things that are going to make us happy, but that happiness is very short lived, especially if it is gotten in the wrong way, because there will still be consequences and punishment that'll come along. And we know that God will, vengeance is his. So what comes around goes around. We don't always know when the timing will happen, but if you get something by deceiving somebody, there's probably going to be some hard consequences that are going to come from that down the road. Now, Ahab, even when he was confronted by Elijah, refused to admit his sin that he had done. All he cared about is that he got what he wanted. And he accused Elijah of being his enemy. And we tend to do this sometimes. If people don't agree with us, we just think, oh, well, they're jealous or they're my enemy or they just don't want me to be happy. We want to look for other people that we can blame for our actions that we're taking. So we need to be willing to make changes in our life. We need to pray to God. We need to realize that God is a merciful God and he will forgive us of our sins. He knows we're going to sin, but he also wants us to humble ourselves. And we do see that God showed his mercy when Ahab had humbled himself, when he realized that because of his want and his desires, it cost one man his life, but then it was also going to cost his wife her life and all the lives of his sons as well. And so he humbled himself before the Lord, and then God had mercy upon him. We all need to be humble, and God will teach us to be humble one way or another. So it's better for us to humble ourselves fast, and then we get to the good stuff like blessings, blessings, blessings. May God be with you in everything, in every way.